Dear students, today we will be discussing Kautilya's theory of Dand Niti. The objective behind today's discussion is to give you an insight into the significance of Dand as an element of the Saptang theory, to give you an understanding of the various connotations of Dand as well as the functions of Dand Niti as an integral part of governance. For convenience of our understanding, we have divided the entire discussion into a number of segments. We would start by introducing the text Kautilya's Arthashastra. Thereafter, we would focus on the various connotations of Dand. Dand as punishment, Dand as army, Dand as knowledge or discourse. Finally, we would focus on the various functions of Dand Niti. Let us start with a brief glimpse about the Arthashastra. Kautilya or Chanakya or Vishnugupta as he is called was a prime minister of Chandragupta Maurya, the founder of the famous Mauryan dynasty. Kautilya's Arthashastra is one of the finest treatises on statecraft, administration, law and justice, governance, and it is essentially considered to be a manual of good governance. Now, why did Kautilya focus on Dand Niti? Kautilya believed that during the period when India was subjected to multiple problems internally due to maladministration, externally from the threat of Greek invasion. Furthermore, India was also subjected to multiple invasions, problems from neighboring kingdoms. Hence, India must have been going through a crisis. Kautilya therefore felt compelled to enunciate a strong foundation of statecraft and also provided a very strong foundation of Dand Niti to maintain law and order. In fact, it was the fear of anarchy and lawlessness that must have compelled Kautilya to lay the foundation of the principles of Dand Niti. Kautilya's Arthashastra focuses on various aspects of Dand Niti. Let us start with the concept of Dand. Dand as Niti. Literally, the term Dand means a staff or a rod. Niti means science. So, Dand Niti is the science of coercion. Dand is said to be one of the four aspects of the conduct of political affairs. The other three being peace, restraint and dissension. Dand is said to be the basic foundation for a stable societal system. Kautilya believed that if every individual followed their own swadharma, they followed the rules of the Varna system and the ashram system, and if the king followed the principles of Rajdharma, there would be no need of Dand because there would be absolute law and order in the kingdom. But because people do not follow, hence there is chaos, anarchy and lawlessness. Thus, the rationale for Dand as punishment. In fact, it is believed that if the law of punishment is kept in abeyance, it gives rise to such disorder as it is implied in the concept of Mastanaya. For in the absence of magistrate judicial system, the state would sink into lawlessness and anarchy. Dand as an art of punishment. This is the first aspect of Dand Niti. Dand signifies the power of the ruler to provide for punishment. In fact, this concept of Dand is rooted in discipline. It is indispensable for the well-being and for maintaining order in society. Although the primary function of Dand Niti is to control the people and the society, but then the Kautilya cautions the ruler to dispense Dand with care and caution. It should neither be too harsh nor be too lenient, but it should be as deserved. What is the objective of punishment? Kautilya believed that punishment, when awarded with due consideration, makes the people devoted to righteousness and it works productive of wealth and enjoyment. While punishment, when ill awarded, it leads to greed, anger among the populace, and it might also undermine the basic precepts of law and order. Therefore, a well-considered and just punishment makes the people devoted to righteousness and tread the path of dharma. Thus, punishment pronounced after balanced reasoning leads to the growth of arth, kam, and dharma. Punishment, Kautilya emphasized again and again that it should be as deserved, in proportion to the punishment, in proportion to the crime. Objective of punishment. Kautilya believes that the law should be in the hands of the king, and punishments need to be awarded to those who are guilty so that the king can protect himself from social unrest and unhappiness. He believes that punishment is a means to an end, and it needs to prevent the commission of the crime. Kautilya was also a reformer, where he thought punishments could reform a person and hence a societal system. What happens if the king gives a wrong punishment? How can he absolve himself from a wrong punishment? Kautilya says, if the king inflicts unjustifiable punishment upon an innocent man, he shall dedicate to God Varuna in water 30 times of the unjust imposition. Afterwards, the amount can be distributed among the Brahmins. Thereby the king will be purified from the sin of unjust infliction of punishment, because King Varuna is the ruler of sinners among men. What should be the considerations before dispensation of punishment? When dispensing judgments, the judicial commissioner shall take into consideration the social position of the person, the nature of the offence, the cause, the gravity or lightness which has led to the perpetration of the crime, the antecedent and subsequent circumstances, the time and the place of the commission of the crime, equitable distinctions among offenders, whether belonging to the royal family or to the subject population. How to settle disputes? For Kautilya, there were 4 bases of justice according to which a dispute can be settled. They are dharma, based on truth; evidence, based on witness; custom, traditions which are acceptable by the people; and finally royal edicts. Let us move on, students, to the essentials of the justice delivery system as propounded by Kautilya. Book 4 of the Arthashastra includes the issue of criminal law and is titled Removal of Thorns, or the removal of antisocial elements. Chanakya describes maintaining law and order as the essential duty of the king. Now, law and order prevention and protection and promotion can be done in 2 ways. One, maintaining the social order, and second one, preventing and penalizing criminal activities. There is a clear distinction among the administration of civil law and criminal law. Based on this, let us move on to the features of the justice system. Firstly, that the rule of law had to be followed, which suggests that nobody was above the rule of law. Secondly, checks and balances were clearly introduced for all public officials, including fines, punishments for malpractice in public duties. Thirdly, the laws must be clear and concise and properly codified to ensure that nothing is ambiguous. There is no scope for misinterpretation by the judges and officials. And finally, law should be effectively enforced. What are the factors affecting effectiveness of law enforcement? Firstly, honesty of the law enforcers. Second, importance of judicial fairness. And thirdly, proportionality of the punishment. Let us understand these concepts one by one. Honesty of the law enforcer. Law enforcers themselves, including the king, must be honest and law abiding. A judge must be competent and not compromise with the judicial process in order to ensure impartiality. A judge shall not threaten, intimidate, or drive away or unjustly silence any litigant, abuse any person who has come to the court of law. A judge shall not decide a case without calling any evidence. A judge shall not dismiss a case under some pretext. A judge shall not make somebody abandon a case, making them tired or due to undue delay. A judge shall not misrepresent the statement provided by a witness in a particular context. A judge shall not coach witnesses or rehear a case which had been completed and judgment has been delivered. All these are punishable offences. In case an offence is repeated, the judge shall be fined doubled and removed from office. Importance of judicial fairness. Judicial trials should not be unnecessarily delayed. If you remember, students, the modern precept also says justice delayed is justice denied. Because Kautilya believed that interrogation after some days is inadmissible, unreliable. No one shall be arrested on suspicion of having committed a theft or burglary if 3 nights have passed since the crime, unless he is caught with the tools of the crime, of the commission of the crime. However, Kautilya did state that an offender cannot go scot-free just because of the passage of time. He suggested that the maximum time allotted for a defendant to file a case in his defense shall be 3 fortnights. Let us move on to the legal procedure. In determining a suit in favor of one or the other party, the following shall be taken into consideration for strengthening a party's case. Number 1, statements of eyewitnesses, voluntary admissions, straightforwardness in answering questions, and evidence tendered on oath. Judicial procedure. The following shall go against the party. What are the various aspects which can weaken a case? Contradiction between earlier and later statements. Unreliable witnesses being brought to court by secret agents after absconding. Proportionality of the punishment is another essential of the justice delivery system. Emphasis on impartiality, certainty, and proportionality of punishment has been emphasized again and again by Kautilya. If a king is unable to apprehend a thief or recover stolen property, the victim of the theft shall be reimbursed from the treasury, that is, from the king's own resources. Property unjustly appropriated shall be recovered and returned to the owner. Otherwise, the victim shall be paid its value. There has been an inbuilt initiative to prevent crimes from happening and solving them. If they happened otherwise, the king had to compensate for the loss. Under no circumstances the king can deliver a wrong judgment. What were the different kinds of punishments? Kautilya proposes a long list of punishments, both physical punishments and monetary fines. If the convicted person wished, physical punishments prescribed from North India's crimes can be converted into monetary fines. For example, according to Kautilya, a convicted person could pay 54 panas to spare the mutilation of his thumb, his forefinger, or the tip of his nose. Kautilya suggested that convicted persons were released from prison only if they had paid off by their work the amount owed by them, or after receiving a payment for redemption or redeemed by charitable persons. Fine shall be fixed, taking into account the custom and the nature of the offence. Degree of punishment. He recommended that in all cases, the punishment prescribed shall be imposed for the first offence, doubled for the second offence, trebled for the third offence, and the fourth time he commits the same offence, the king can give whatever he pleases. Kautilya preferred monetary fines to physical imprisonment, and he wanted to ensure that fines were definitely paid off. He also recommended leniency in exceptional circumstances. leniency should be shown to a pilgrim, an ascetic, anyone suffering from illness, hunger, starvation, poverty, fatigue from a journey, suffering from an earlier punishment, or a foreigner from another country, or somebody from the countryside. This was about Dand as punishment. Let us move on to the next segment of our discussion, which was Dand as army. Dand also refers to army or military power. You remember, students, Dand is also one of the key elements of the Saptang theory of the state. Kautilya described that the best army was one which was hereditary, faithful, always invincible, endured with the capacity of endurance, dexterous in fighting different kinds of battles, efficient in handling weapons, always dutiful to the king both during normal times as well as during times of adversity. He also focused on the fact that Dand also refers to the legal sanction, which was a vital element, and Kautilya emphasized on the element of force in order to keep the people under control. Dand as military power refers to two important concepts, Bal and Shakti. Bal refers to physical power. Shakti refers to power in its various connotations. When Kautilya refers to Shakti, he refers to Shakti of mantra, Shakti of Prabhu, and Shakti of inspiration and perseverance. Shakti of mantra refers to strength acquired by intellectual achievements and knowledge of good statecraft. Shakti of Prabhu refers to the strength gained by good and full treasury and an efficient army. Shakti of inspiration and perseverance refers to enthusiasm, concentration, and the gaining of inner strength. Moving on to the third segment, Dand as knowledge or discourse. Dand Niti can also be understood as a branch of knowledge. Kautilya accepts that there were four major branches of knowledge. The first is Anvikshiki. Literally, it means dialectics, which includes the philosophical system of the dualistic Sankho, the yoga and the materialistic philosophy of the Lokayuta. The second branch of knowledge constitutes by the three Vedas, Rig, Sama and Yajur. This literature helps in ordering the social structure composed of the fourfold Varna system. The third refers to the knowledge of Varta, which refers to agriculture, cattle breeding and trade. The fourth branch of knowledge is Dand Niti. Kautilya accepts that all these four subjects, Anvikshiki, Vedas, Varta and Dand Niti, are a part of the knowledge system. As a part of knowledge, Dand Niti keeps the other three branches of knowledge in an organic unity. He notes that the scepter on which the well-being and progress of the science of government, the science of Anvikshiki, triple Vedas, Varna system, Varta depends is punishment. In other words, in fact, it is Dand Niti which keeps Anvikshiki, Vedas and well as Varta in its right control. The science which treats Danda is the law of punishment. It is the science of government, students. Dand Niti as a science of government also deals with preservation and acquisition of dialectics, Vedas and Varta. Dand Niti aids the Vedas insofar as it prescribes ways and means to regulate the four castes and the four orders which are necessary for the maintenance of social order. Dand Niti aids Varta because both treasury and punishment are necessary to control the societal system, the kingdom as well as the army. Since Dand Niti is so vitally essential for other branches of knowledge, Kautilya goes on to say that it is on this art of government that the course of the progress of the world depends. Hence, the first three branches of knowledge are dependent on the well-being of the art of punishment. Finally, the art of Dand is considered and concerned with the totality of the means for acquisition, preservation, growth and distribution of things. It is a means to make acquisition, to keep them secure, to improve them, to distribute all of them, and to ensure that there is continuous improvement happening in society, polity and the state system. In fact, Kautilya believes that it is on this science of government, Dand Niti, that the course of the progress of the entire world depends. Finally, let's come to the functions of Dand Niti. According to Kautilya, there are 4 functions of Dand Niti. Acquisition of that which has not been acquired. Preservation of that which has been acquired. Accentuation of that which has been preserved. Righteous and due apportionment of that which has been accentuated. Let us try to understand what are the implications of Kautilya's theory of Dand Niti. Dand is not only considered with the imposition of penal sanctions, but with the totality of the social and political interactions and relationships involving the king, ministers and the army. It is not just physical power, but legal and military power too, which has been highlighted by Kautilya. Kautilya believed that fairness was essential for political stability, law and order, and this was a prerequisite for prosperity. Finally, he proposed a judicial system which had built-in fairness and crime deterrence. Let us quickly summarize what we have studied in Dand Niti. We had studied Dand as punishment. Punishment should be as deserved in proportion to the offence committed. Secondly, we had studied Dand as Shakti and Bal, which refers to military power and strength. Thirdly, we studied Dand Niti as a part of knowledge and discourse. Finally, we studied the functions of Dand Niti in terms of acquisition, preservation, accentuation and apportionment of wealth, which would ultimately lead to a prosperous kingdom. Thus, Dand Niti aids governance and creates the foundation of a strong state system. Thank you.